event here tonight as we are celebrating Bedford Day, a holiday that is also recognized by the city of Hollywood here in Florida. We're visiting with you now live from South Florida, and in a few minutes, our presenter, Ben Best, will be coming in from Honduras in Central America. Tonight is a special event, and later this month, we have our regular event, January 25th, when we are honored to have Jose Cordero in person at the church at 7 p.m. And I hope that you can join us either in person or by Zoom. Our Zoom and doors will be opening at 5 o'clock on January 25th. Please join me in the recitation of our creed. We believe that all of life is sacred and that we have been given this one life to make unlimited. We believe in our Creator's divine plan for all of humanity to have infinite lifespans in perfect health and eternal joy, rendering death to be optional. By following our gospel, we achieve eternal life, creating a heaven here on earth. We follow Nikolai Fedorov, who taught that the transcendence of the Creator will only be solved when humanity, in our unified efforts, become an instrument of universal resuscitation, when the divine word becomes our divine action. And we follow Arthur C. Clarke, who said, the only way to discover the limits of the possible is to go beyond them into the impossible. And so we enter each day energized in spirit and empowered by the words of our prophets to live in joy, serving our Creator and all of mankind forever and ever. Feel free to share this recording with all of the people that you care about, and you can find it in our YouTube channels. And if this is your first time joining us, you'll want to join our email list so that you can get the updates on all that is going on with super longevity, and so that you may live a longer and healthier life. You can simply join our email list by going to perpetual.life at our website and send me an email there. We'd love to welcome your donations. If you'd like to make a donation, you can go to our website and click on the donation link. If you're curious about cryonics and not signed up, feel free to talk with Rudy Hoffman or myself. We'll be happy to get you more information about cryonics. Let's get right to our program tonight with Ben Best, and note that we will have a question and answer period after Ben speaks tonight. Ben's topic is updates on COVID-19 and cryonics research. Ben was president and CEO of the Cryonics Institute, one of the world's largest cryonics organizations, for 9 years. Between 2003 and 2012, Ben Best is a well-known activist in cryonics and life extension advocacy. And he holds undergraduate degrees in pharmacy from the University of British Columbia and physics and computer sciences and finance from Simon Fraser University in British Columbia, Canada. Ben is also certified as a professional registered parliamentarian by the National Association of Parliamentarians. He currently travels around the world attending age reversal conferences and meeting with researchers working to reverse human aging. Tonight, Ben comes to us from Honduras in Central America. His presentation, updates on COVID-19 and cryonics research. Please help me welcome Ben Best.
I just want to make a brief remembrance of James Bedford before getting into the main topics. And because I have two separate talks on COVID-19 and cryonics research technology, I will have separate question periods for each of those sections. So actually, this is, most of you probably don't realize this is January 12th is Bedford Day. It's a day celebrated by cryonicists. James Bedford was the first person to be cryonically preserved and maintained in cryopreservation to the present day. He's been in liquid nitrogen for 57 years, since 1967. So he was a psychology professor. He was cryonically preserved at age 33 after dying of cancer. And he's currently being stored in liquid nitrogen by Life Extension Foundation, which is a cryonics organization in Arizona. All right, so happy Bedford Day. So update on COVID-19. I'm not hesitant about using technical language. I hope I don't go over people's head. But anyway, SARS-CoV-2 is a single strand of RNA. The virus enters cells, takes over the cell machinery to manufacture more viruses. And it has a spike protein with two components, the S1 part that binds and the S2 part that fuses those cells. And it fuses to the host cell ACE2 receptor by a receptor binding domain on S1. So the spike protein is the means by which it gains into the cells. For terminology, antigen are substances found on viruses, bacteria, etc., that cause immune response. And the spike protein on the virus is an antigen that's a primary target for COVID-19 mRNA virus vaccines. All SARS-CoV variants involve modifications of the spike protein. So that's an image of the virus. I haven't seen it before. And it's covered with these S1 and S2 spikes. The S1 binding domain attaches to the ACE2 initially. ACE2 is the receptor in your lungs and kidneys and other organs, and mainly the lungs and upper respiratory tract. And that's how it gains entry through these ACE2 receptors. And that's just showing the binding of the S1 spike to the ACE2 receptor. And the ACE2 is required for attachment, but there's also this TMPRSS2, which is part in the cell membranes, which is required to actually have the virus fuse with the membrane and come into the cell. So this is what it gets in. Once the S2 part is what fuses with the cell, and the virus gains entry, and that's showing the virus entering the cell. ACE2 enzyme has normal function. There's the angiotensin converting enzyme, which basically raises your blood pressure or keeps your blood pressure up. But you don't want the blood pressure to get too high. So we have this ACE2 enzyme, which the virus uses to gain access. And blockage of ACE2 enzyme can allow excessive ACE activity, raising blood pressure. So you get too much virus on these ACE2 enzymes, and you end up with higher blood pressure. So we don't even know what this TMPRSS2 does normally. It helps the virus get into cells, but we don't know what it normally does. And the ACE2 receptors normally decline with age, which probably has a lot to do with why people's blood pressure goes up as they get older. And also diabetes and cardiovascular disease reduce ACE2, which is associated with higher blood pressure. Even though you've got fewer these ACE2 receptors, it doesn't give you protection against the virus because these the TMPRSS2 is present. As long as any tiny amounts of that, the virus can gain entry. So the first CoV-2 variant was the Wuhan strain in Wuhan, China, and but by January 2020, there was this mutate variants D614G, which increased the virus transmissibility without increasing the severity. And this is a trend we've seen with the virus. The transmissibility is the main thing that increases. So anyway, that just shows you the path that it took in 2020 and taking over from the Wuhan strain. And then following the D614G, mutation. There's alpha, beta, and delta, which appeared at various times in 2020. And you can see the progress of the alpha was first dominant, and then finally delta took over. But finally, in November 2021, the Omicron variant emerged and has completely replaced all the previous variants. It emerged in November 2021. It has a whole bunch of mutations and a large antigenic distance between the other variants. And it causes less severe disease severity than previous variants. Delta was much more deadly than Omicron is. Omicron is much more easily transmitted. So that just shows you the antigen distance. Omicron is very far removed from the original Wuhan strain and all the other variants. And also, you can see the Omicron has much higher reproductive rate. It can infect more people. You showed the Wuhan strain, 2.9 people infected on average, Delta 5.1, and Omicron, the first Omicron variant, 9.5 people infected on average. So it's highly proliferative with many subvariants, but as I say, these most recently we're getting JN1 subvariant, and this is emerging. The shows the variants that were emerging from the fall of 2023 in the United States, and you see the JN1 basically taking over as you go from left to right. And this is another just an example of the BA2 variant transformed to the BA286 and then JN1. The BA286 had a higher ACE2 affinity, but JN1 evades the immune system better. So apparently over 90% of Cubans have been infected by the Omicron variant. And then these 65 people had multiple infections. Reinfections may be cleared more rapidly and reduce risk of long COVID for more people. But if there are comorbidities, reinfection can greatly increase the risk of hospitalization and death. And so the dark blue supposedly shows the incidence of the severity of organs. The mouth, lungs, and upper airways are on the upper left-hand side are most affected, but also the gut is also infected, and the immune system, and doesn't show the nervous system, but it's pretty. The injuries in the brain can persist long after the virus is no longer present. These organ systems get injured by the virus, even if there's no virus left anymore. The organ systems are still damaged, which is part of the problem with long COVID. But another problem may be that the virus is persisting in these organs, even though it's not in the bloodstream anymore. So the antigen test for the virus generally looks at your blood, but you can have no virus in your blood, but it can still be present in other organs. And that's what you get with long COVID. Long COVID is where the virus is cleared, it's not in your bloodstream anymore, but it's in all these other organs, and it's causing a lot of symptoms as long as 4 weeks and longer, up to a year, and even longer for some people, with this persistence beyond 4 weeks, as I say here. That's what we're calling long COVID. So who gets long COVID? Well, people with type 2 diabetes, gut dysbiosis, that means your the microorganisms in your gut are messed up. Persistent, the persistent virus, reactivation of the existing herpes viruses, notably Epstein-Barr and HSCVC, obesity, autoimmunity. And major risk factors for long COVID not found in controls. In other words, um, abnormal cerebral fluid, hypothyroidism, heavy alcohol use, high blood pressure, sleep apnea, etc. As I mentioned, the viruses may persist in other organs, even though not in the bloodstream. And the fatigue and headache are the dominant symptoms of long COVID, but there's also microvascular clotting, gut dysbiosis, and disrupted immune system. So who gets long COVID? Actually, 30% of mild cases of COVID get long COVID, and 70% of severe cases, but only 12% vaccinated people get long COVID. And there's innate immune system hypersensitivity, depleted mast cells, anyway. You know, in the United Kingdom survey found long COVID to be half as prevalent for the Omicron variant as for the Delta variant. So that's another example that the Delta variant is not as severe as Omicron. So the vaccines, this is a very controversial subject. There are epitopes are foreign molecules that elicit an antigenic response, basically a response from your immune system. And so we got 4 epitopes I've listed here: the spike, the nuclear capsid, membrane envelope. But the Chinese coronavirus, this is a typical kind of vaccine development. In other words, they inactivate the vaccine, and so actually all the 4 of the epitopes are being involved because the inactivated vaccine is being put in the patient, and the immune system reacts to all the epitopes. But and the AstraZeneca uses basically but also is using the spike protein as the epitope. But the Pfizer and Moderna mRNA vaccines, this was a new breakthrough in vaccination technology. It's only targeting the spike as the epitope, and it's a vaccine technology that was supposedly developed because of this urgent need for COVID-19 infection. So they use liposomes for delivery of the mRNA. And like cell membranes, the liposomes are lipid bilayers. They can be protected from the immune system by polyethylene glycol. And they fuse with cell membranes, allowing the mRNA proteins to get into the cell. And the mRNA is what the cell uses to produce more spike proteins. So this shows you how it's working. Basically the lipid nanoparticles get into the cell. They release this mRNA. The cell uses the mRNA to produce spike proteins, and then spike proteins that go to the cell surface, and then the body starts creating antibodies to this spike protein. So this is just showing us a similar picture. So AstraZeneca was in 2021. AstraZeneca was the most widely used, followed by coronavirus and Pfizer and Moderna and so forth. But as of December 2023, 14 billion vaccines have been delivered throughout the world. 70% of the world's population has received at least one vaccine. So anaphylactic shock, that could happen. So this per million doses, 11.1 per million dose doesn't seem like much for Pfizer, and it's even less for AstraZeneca and Moderna, but it does happen. And that's why when you get it can be very life-threatening to have anaphylactic shock. And that's why when you go to these vaccination stations, they make you wait 15 minutes so that so they can give you epinephrine in case you get anaphylactic shock. But there's also other reactions that have happened. Thrombotic events is the most common example. Most of these with Pfizer rather than Moderna, even though they're both RMA vaccines. And then it's basically excess clotting, excess bleeding, or inflammation of heart muscle are these main symptoms, and also stroke. But these, when considering all the millions of doses that are being given, these numbers seem small, the billions of doses actually, but probably underreported, but it's still a concern. So in September 21, these bivalent boosters came out, which are supposedly protected against Omicron rather than the original Wuhan strain. Now, they don't reduce the risk of infection. People there's all these Omicron variants coming out, and people are still getting infected and reinfected. But at least these bivalent boosters offer protection against hospitalization and death. But there are risks. The mRNA vaccines use this called N-1-methylpseudouridine instead of the uridine normally found in RNA, and that makes the spike protein last longer and have reduced immune response. And they also use lipid particles, which can cross the blood-brain barrier with placenta. But they're toxic. Spike proteins are toxic, whether it's coming from the virus or from the vaccine. It's a toxic protein, and it's capable of binding ACE2 receptors, causing platelet aggregation, thrombosis, and inflammation. In the brain, the spike proteins can persist with prion-like properties associated with neurodegeneration, such as Alzheimer's disease and other neurodegenerative diseases. But this is a very controversial topic. There's all these problems, but I still say the mRNA vaccines have probably saved millions of lives, but I'm not sure about all these side effects. Anyway, surgical face mask. Early in 2020, Anthony Fauci, director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, said face masks should be reserved for 6 people, and expressed concern that face masks encourage people to touch their faces. So but in July 2020, he said, changed his mind and said they should be worn universally. A 2023 Cochrane review of randomized clinical trials concluded that surgical face masks have not shown to reduce the spread of respiratory diseases. Now, Cochrane reviews is the gold standard of review. And when you see something in Cochrane review, that's the most authoritative kind of review you can see in the medical literature. But Dr. Fauci disputes this claim and says face masks are really effective. So what can we do for prevention and treatment? Repeated physical exercise is anti-inflammatory and improves immunocompetence. History of smoking is linked to adverse COVID-19 outcomes. Fasting and fermenting can increase autophagy, which can increase degradation of spike protein. Nattokinase in fermented soybean, but potently degrades spike protein and blood clots. Melatonin can prevent COVID-19 comorbidities and relief symptoms of long COVID. The combination of bromelain, which is found in pineapple stems, and acetylcysteine has been shown to synergistically attack and degrade SARS-CoV-2 spike proteins. Vitamin C, D, E, selenium, and omega-3 fatty acids can resist the inflammatory symptoms of COVID-19, and Paxlovid is the most widely used antibiotic drug to resist symptoms of COVID-19. So I'll take any questions if there are questions about this portion of my presentation. All
Can
right.
you open the last slide again, please?
Okay, the next topic is updated cryonics related research. So I'm Ben Best. I'm Director of Research and Oversight for BRLS, the Biomedical Research and Longevity Society, formerly called Life Extension Foundation. BRLS spends roughly $8 to $9 million per year funding cryonics-related research, more than any other single funding source. So Rodolfo Goya, he lives in Argentina, and he's been using nematode worm to study the effects of cryoprotective agents in algae. And they have a pre-permanent nervous system. The C. elegans worm has a very permanent nervous system, but they can be trained to detect chemical signals in the environment and respond to those signals. And it's been demonstrated that they can be cooled to -8 degrees Celsius and, basically solid form, rewarmed, and retain their memories. And so Dr. Goya wants to duplicate this research with faster warming speeds. Tardigrades are the ultimate survivors on this planet. They can survive being boiled in water and being cooled to liquid nitrogen temperature, but they've never been trained. The tardigrades are only about 1 millimeter in length, but Dr. Goya hopes to be able to train tardigrades to respond to chemical signals and demonstrate their retention after cooling liquid nitrogen temperature. So 21st Century Medicine is the largest organization the BLS funds. It gets major portion of our research funding. Chief Executive Officer Greg Fay, it has 24 employees, including MDs and PhDs. They aim to preserve rat kidneys with vitrification solution, cool the kidneys, cryogenic temperatures, rewarm the kidneys, and then transplant into a living rabbit with full function. And they also want to do similar things with rabbit brains. So what I'm saying vitrified, what is that vitrification? It means glass. Sand and quartz are crystal forms of silicon dioxide, and they're not glass. But if you add soda or lime to the silicon dioxide, it makes glass, such as we have in these windows here, and the drinking vessels and so forth. So a cooled syrup increases viscosity to be amorphous, not crystalline. And so avoiding the damage caused by ice crystals and freezing damage. So this is an example of different between freezing and vitrifying. This on the left you see a frozen kidney, looks like a snowball, whereas the vitrified kidney just looks like a well-preserved kidney behind glass, in glass. So how do we avoid ice formation? We use cryoprotected agents, and interfere with the ice formation by bonding with the hydrogen, the hydrogen, hydrogen in water molecules. Unfortunately, CPAs can be toxic. That's why, I mean, that looks fine. This vitrified kidney looks fine, but if you use a lot of cryoprotectant to get that vitrified kidney, you probably don't have. It's not possibly viable because it's been killed by all this cryoprotectant. So, but if cryoprotectant toxicity could be eliminated, then transplantable human organs could be stored at low temperature, and cryonics patients could be more easily preserved at cryogenic temperatures without ice formation. The challenge of preserving tissues and organs with CPAs is to use enough cryoprotectant agent to prevent ice formation, but not so much as to cause damage by cryoprotectant toxicity. So we're walking a tightrope here between freezing damage and toxicity. If it weren't for the toxicity, we could use lots more cryoprotectant. So Dr. Fay, the head of 21st Century Medicine, has been trying for decades to, 4 decades, to preserve kidneys. Kidneys are the most transplanted human organs, but the demand is greater than supply. Most people dying waiting for a transplant. So if we could vitrify and store human organs, human kidneys at cryogenic temperatures, there would meet a great medical need and also proof of principle of cryonics. So this breakthrough will attract huge amounts of commercial funding and cryonics related research. And vitrifying rabbit kidneys is the first step towards vitrifying human kidneys. But actually, last June, there was a breakthrough in Minnesota when they were able to vitrify rat kidneys. And it's made the cover of Science magazine. But they reported vitrifying 5 rat kidneys, storing at minus 148 degrees Celsius, rewarming them with iron nanoparticles and achieving complete viability and functionality of kidneys when transplanted back into rats. But 21st century medicine found that this particular perfusion method was that were used successfully for rat kidneys, didn't scale up to rabbit kidneys, which are 12 times larger than rat kidneys. And 21st century medicine has their own method of rewarming using radio frequency dielectric, which doesn't require adding these nanoparticles to the organ. And so Brian Wolk is this guy who's developed the radio frequency rewarming method for kidneys and ovaries. And it's more, the radio frequency rewarming is more penetrating. You know, we warm our foods with microwaves, but radio frequency rewarming is more penetrating even than microwaves. And so this is showing that M22 is the vitrification solution being used at 21st century medicine, and this shows that you can, if you can have a faster rewarming rate with the radio frequency rewarming, you can use less M22, which means less cryoprotectant toxicity. So that's Brian Wolk's apparatus. And then we've got Ralph Spindler, formerly an electrical engineer. He's leading the rabbit brain cryopreservation research. And the rabbit heads are isolated, perfused with M22. After being perfused with M22, the rabbit brains heads are cooled with liquefaction to about minus 150 degrees and stored at that temperature, and then rewarmed and unloading of M32, and they make light micrographs. Another project at 21st Century Medicine is building an intermediate temperature storage unit because liquid storing things in liquid nitrogen results in cracks due to thermal stress. And so we prefer vitrified organs to be stored at higher temperatures, minus 140 degrees, to have less fracturing. And so 21st Century Medicine is building intermediate temperature storage unit for a European cryonics organization. So what it's got, 21st Century got planned for 2024. They plan to scale up their organ cryopreservation procedures from rabbit kidneys to pig kidneys, which are comparable in size to human kidneys. They found new cryoprotected agents with minimal toxicity, which can be added to M22, which can reduce M22 toxicity. And they plan to demonstrate function electroencephalograph of vitrified rabbit kidney. Alexander Stolzig has academic positions in Germany and the United Kingdom, has worked for the Sense Foundation in the USA. She just received a grant from BLS to form a separate company that will work within 21st Century Medicine. So she's going to maintain pig brains in a controlled environment outside of pig bodies. A technology called BrainX with pumps, filters, and nutrients. And this will allow for faster perfusion of cryoprotectants and studying effects of blood substitutes and actually develop reducing ischemic damage as well as ischemic repair. And she's going to work in collaboration with 21st Century Medicine Science using the pig brains. So another organization we're funding is Advanced Neurobiosciences in Portland, Oregon. Ashwin DeWolf is the CEO. This is their lab, and they're using the Susan DNS skill in rat microsurgery. So the advantage of using rats is its low cost, high throughput method of testing cryonics related protocols and solutions. They've studied the effects of long-term and short-term warm and cold ischemia and has published these results. Ischemia is where there's a lack of oxygen and blood flow, lack of nutrients and oxygen to tissues because of a lack of blood flow. That's what you call ischemia. And cryoprotectant solutions use carrier solutions that affect the efficacy of cryoprotectant. And in 2023, A&B discovered salts that lower brain metabolism and improve cryoprotectant efficiency. In 2024, A&B will establish whole brain EEG capabilities to assess brain viability after application of cryoprotection. So Ashwin DeWolf is a multi-talented man, and he's also in charge of this other organization in New York City, Life Extension Technology. And they're doing research to improve SST, standby stabilization and transport service. And when we do stabilization in cryonics cases, we use these different cardiopulmonary support devices, which are basically heart-lung machines that beat the heart and ventilate the lungs. And they're also supporting development of liquid ventilation devices. So as I mentioned, ischemia is tissue damage or lack of blood circulation, no oxygen nutrient. Faster cryonics patient can be cooled with less ischemic damage to the tissues. Cooling in an ice bath is faster than cooling with ice bags, and cooling with external circulating cold water is faster even than simple ice bath. So that's showing you the squid, which is the thing that circulates the water around the patient in the ice bath. But BT is also constructed. You see the patient, his back is not being affected by the circulating water. So they've constructed another ice bath where they can actually get the water in contact with the patient's back. So this is just showing the difference between ice baths. The cooling with ice baths in the upper line is much slower than the cooling with the ice bath and the squid. But internal cooling is faster than external cooling. If you can cool with put cold fluid in blood vessels, that'll be even faster cooling, but that requires access from the surgeon. The surgical access, which takes time to do the surgery. And cooling with a liquid gas mixture to the lungs can produce be faster. So this is the surgery that's required to gain internal access. The liquid ventilation in turn achieves internal cooling by flushing a cold liquid through the lungs and avoids the time doing surgery. And the line on the left shows how much faster theoretical liquid ventilation could be than the other methods of cooling. This is demonstrating of testing in a pig. So this is the guy building the automated liquid ventilation device, and hopefully he's going to be able to test some human cadavers soon. So standby stabilization transport, SST as we call it in cryonics. When a cryonics patient is dying, the cryonics team comes to the patient's bedside and waits for the patient to die, and that's called standby. After the patient has been declared dead by a medical professional, they begin cooling, chest compressions, artificial ventilation, and administration of medications to depress metabolism. That's what we call stabilization. Once the patient has been stabilized, the patient has been transported in ice to dry ice to the cryonics organization located in another state or country. That's what we call transport. So that's SST. So S mix is a method developed to measure the ischemic damage during SST. Ideally, we want 0 minutes of ischemic damage. So Ashland the Wolf has applied the estimate standard to all cryonics patients at Alcor and determined the best estimate scores were for local patients in Alcor, where Alcor is located, rather than flying a deploy model of a team being flown to some out-of-state location and doing SST at the location of the patient. So spin animation is one organization being funded by BLS. It offers SST services to Alcor Cryonics members and the continuity unit staff, but it's based on the fly and deploy model. They fly from California to the location of the patient. So Research in Biomedical Sciences is a new BLS funded organization based in South Florida, which is intended to provide local quality services to patients in South Florida rather than deploying services from suspended animation. But it's not expected to offer service until mid-2024. So we got this last problem, vital signs alarm systems. So my website, benbest.com, since 2024, I've had this page entitled, in the cryonics section, I've had a personal alarm system for cryonicists. I made updates every few years, now totally updates. I've had very many problems and developments, followed by very many disappointments. So historical SAF for cryonicists who've arranged for standby have actually received standby deanimation. We call it deanimation rather than death because the patients, we call them patients because we don't think they're actually dead because cryonics is going to bring them back to life eventually. So we use this term deanimation. Anyway, most of those receiving standby are dying of cancer. Sudden cardiac death is one study showing 8 males aged 20 to 64, 32% all deaths are due to sudden cardiac death and with no prior sign heart attack. Another study of males 45 to 75, 60% of these cases had no prior evidence of heart disease. Now this is for males. Women don't seem to have these problems before menopause, but after menopause, their risk of these sudden cardiac death becomes comparable to that of males. So panic button systems could help. If you know you're dying, you can press a panic button or call 911 and get some help. But and declaration of death can be obtained in a hospital. But many crises live alone. Crime-sensitive patient Hugh Hart died on Friday, was not discovered until Monday. Steve Harris, MD, was deeply involved with cryonics for 40 years, including fundamental science and clinical applications. He was discovered in November 2023, he was discovered more than 13 hours after cardiac arrest, and he was straight frozen after being sent to a medical examiner. So we don't want these things to happen. We want to have some vital signs, alerts, alarm system. So anyway, even prior to not living alone, a spouse could awaken and find their spouse dead in the bed, and we have CI actors who found a spouse and a spouse lying in another room in the house dead for hours. So we've got some medical alert systems which are based on basic panic button. If you can press this panic button, we've got a call center, they've got a base station, they've got a mobile unit, and they can detect falls, and they've got GPS, but they can't detect where a person living alone has died while sleeping or is otherwise unable to create an alarm. So we'd like to have rapid detection of vital signs, heartbeat, comfortable, convenient use, even while bathing, send messages by phone numbers, email, etc. GPS identified transmitted with a message, low power consumption, to recharge, wireless operational anywhere, and false alarms are minimally and easily handled. These are our wish lists. So Nikki Olson is a Frank Institute member who's a professional software developer seeking to implement a vital signs alarm system. And she's a software developer who's familiar with most recent hardware, watch-like devices, Fitbit, Apple Watch, and software, and has been investigating vital signs alarm systems. My computer science degree is decades old, so she's aware of the current technology more than I am. This is a website. Anyway, are there any questions about this portion of my presentation?
Yes, Ben, thank you for a great presentation. And first, we do have a question. If we could go back to the COVID, if you don't mind. It was a question coming from our YouTube channel, our YouTube live stream. And the question was that now that there have been so many variants of COVID-19, why not use deactivated virus, since even one round of infection improves outcomes of reinfection? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I don't understand why not use
Since there
like
have been so many variants of COVID-19, is it possible to use the deactivated virus, since even one round of infection improves outcome of reinfection?
virus is mutating so rapidly. I mean, that's a problem, is that it's mutating so rapidly that by the time you develop the vaccine, there's a new mutant around that evades.
Okay. Here's a question regarding cryonics for you. This is also coming from the live stream, and it's, can you use assisted suicide in countries where it is legal to help transition a willing patient to reduce ischemic damage?
Well, actually, Oregon Cryonics, the Cryonics organization, Oregon, is attempting to use that, but you've got to be a resident of Oregon. And also, the Netherlands, the people in the Netherlands are also trying to use that in the Netherlands uh, for advantage, but they're having trouble getting that rolling, but that is part of their plans.
So Ben, would you have to be a resident of Oregon, or could you travel there for an assisted suicide going into cryonic suspension?
Well, actually, I don't know the legal details.
Okay.
Clearly, they make it look hard, but it's a lot easier if you know what the strings are.
Well, I hope that more states will follow to allow assisted suicide for everyone that wants a better cryonic suspension.
Well, actually, it's even allowed in California, and it's actually been applied in cryonic case in California.
Mhm. Okay. Are there any more questions for Ben from the Zoom? You have any questions? You can raise your hand. We can
Yeah, I
bring
have a
you in.
question.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, Ben. This is Steve O calling from Singapore. I've been looking at cryopreservations of cell for quite a while, and there's only really DMSO, which is highly toxic even for cell cultures. What research is there doing to find more friendly compounds than DMSO? What advances are there that you're aware of?
Well, A&B, Advanced Neurobiosciences, is doing research to find less toxic cryoprotectants. And also, as I mentioned, Greg Fee has found 3 new cryoprotectant agents which he hopes to add to make.
Sorry, I'm not quite hearing you. Could you speak closer to your mic? What was the name of the guy doing research on cryoprotectants? Or maybe you can type in the chat.
Has found 3 new cryoprotectants that have very low toxic, and they want to add to M22. Ashwin DeWolf has also found at least one salt which can reduce cryoprotectant toxicity, and he's looking to do much more research in this area in 2024.
Greg Fahey, who you're talking about?
Yeah, Greg Fay has found these 3 cryoprotectants at 21st century.
Okay,
21st century. Okay, thank you.
A and B.
great. There's a question from Jose. Go ahead.
You were talking about the 2024 plans, and you talked moving into kidney with pigs. What other plans are beyond that for 2025 or 2026?
Well, you can only walk before you can run, and you know, they actually haven't even completely perfected rabbit kidneys, but they're very close, and they're hoping moving up to pig kidneys will be a giant step. If they can perfect pig kidneys, then there will be the possibility of doing it for human kidneys, which is, you know, the main organ that's being transplanted. The main organ people are wanting to have transplanted and are dying because they aren't available. And so that will be after pig kidneys, we get to human kidneys.
We have a question here from Brooke. Brooke, can you unmute and ask your question? Be sure to unmute, please. There you go.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Ben. My understanding is that the current cryopreservations, they cause brain shrinkage by dehydrating the brain, and that could be addressed by possibly adding some detergents to the cryopreservation mixture. Are you aware of any ongoing research into opening the blood-brain barrier?
Yes, they're doing that. You're talking about cryonics patients or for these, I mean, they do it routinely with the rabbit brains.
Yeah, I was thinking for ultimately for the human cryopreservation, human cryonics
Yeah,
patient.
the problem is that you're walking a fine line. I guess Ashland Wolf is keen on this, but you're walking a fine line between, normally, unfortunately, normally I mean, the dehydration occurs only in the most ideal cases, and those ideal cases are a minority, and in majority cases, the ischemic damage is opening the blood-brain barrier anyway. So the blood-brain barrier is already open, and I think the dehydration damage isn't as serious a concern as Ashland seems to think it is, because I think that the brain is pretty well preserved, even though in a dehydrated state, and it's easily rehydrated. And it's not being, I don't think the dehydration damage is very great, but I can't quantify it.
Okay, thanks, Ben.
Thank you, Brooke, for your question. Are there any other questions for Ben tonight? Let me check our live stream. Looks like we've got those handled. Last
Yeah.
call for questions. Yes,
Here,
go ahead.
Thank you. So given the prevalence of activity trackers like this Oura Ring I'm wearing or the Apple Watch or the Fitbit, you do think it's a small feature to add heartbeat cessation detection, right? So how come this hasn't been added yet?
People have been saying that for years. I've been hearing that for 20 years. And it should be right around the corner. There's actually, everybody was saying in the cryonics community, we don't need to do this because Apple is going to do it for us and all this stuff, but they haven't done it. It seems like it's a minor problem, but it isn't. I think Nikki Olson has the best chance of coming up with a workable product. I think the FDA is a major problem in this area. I think they stand in the way of reasonable advances in this area.
I guess this is Rudy Huffman. I just want to say that was a really powerful, high content presentation. That was all killer, no filler, Ben, and thank you.
Yes,
Okay.
very good. Very good. Yes, thank you, Ben. Thank you for a wonderful presentation on both subjects. We appreciate you. And also join us on January 25th, when we are honored to have Jose Cordero in person at our church. The service is at 7 p.m., but our doors and Zoom will open at 5 p.m. Thursday, January 25th, for Jose's presentation, The Death of Death, Advances Toward Immortality Around the World. Hope you can join us either in person or in Zoom for that event. Thank you for joining us tonight.
May the good Lord be with you down every road you roam. And may sunshine and happiness surround you when you're far from home. And may you grow to be proud, dignified and true. And do unto others as you'd have done to you. The golden rule. Be courageous and be brave, and in my heart you'll always stay. Forever young, forever young, forever young, forever young. May good fortune be with you, may your guiding light be strong. Build a stairway to heaven with a prince or a vagabond. And may you never love in vain, and in my heart you will remain. Forever young, forever young, forever young, forever young, forever young. Come on, sing with me. Forever young. Singing keeps you young. Fly away, I'll be hoping that I served you well. For all the wisdom of a lifetime, no one can ever tell. But whatever road choose. I'm right behind you, win or lose, forever